Right. Courtesy of the candidates, they're all volunteers. They don't have to be here, they're not here to take crap, they're not here to take insults. I'm there for that. Let's start. I would suggest we start with the far end. The far left candidate. No, the candidate hasn't come yet. David Coburn. MEP.
Right, 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
We have the opportunity now, the Conservative Party are at each other's throats. The Labour Party has gone down the Swanee, it's run by a madman. The Liberals, nobody cares what happened to them. The Scottish Nationalists are collapsing left, right and centre. We now have a chance to get somewhere. We have to get together and we must move forward. We need a leader. I've done that in Scotland. I've led the people from the front there. I've been fighting big beasts like Sturgeon and all her crew. And I can tell you now that UKIP need a leader. Someone who can speak for UKIP. Someone who can speak for all our values. The things we need.
Yeah.
How's that?
That's it. Right. Excellent. Well done. Aidan Hounsland.
I want to leave Labour and Conservatives to squabble over how to divide up the pie of national wealth like two bald men fighting over a curve, while we concentrate on making the country rich. Thank you.
Ben Walker. Councillor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of you will not know me, and that is actually a good thing. So I don't consider myself to be part of the establishment which has been formed within our very own party. I have a real issue with that. So, myself, I am a former town councillor, a district councillor, a two-term mayor. I served in the Royal Navy and I served in the Afghanistan War. I've been involved in local politics for years now, absolute years. I've been a local activist. And that's the thing, that's what we need. So many of the candidates tonight, they'll talk to you about their vision for the UK. You know, their policy on immigration, their policy on the NHS. You know, I can go on and on and on. They're all important issues. But the first issue that we have to consider, and the elephant in the room for us, is our party itself. Our party is broken. Our party has a structure that doesn't function correctly. You have branches, you have candidates, you have councillors that cannot get the support that they need. You have an NEC which it's perceived that it acts in its own interests. You know, you'll have emails sent down from the top and you'll see nothing at a branch level, and there's just this disconnect, and we need to fix that. If we're going to be taken seriously, if we want to be sort of fighting elections and actually making ground against the Labour and the Conservatives, we've got to fix ourselves first. We have to fix our own house before we fix the one in London. Now don't get me wrong, I'm strong on all of the things. You know, I'm a classic libertarian. I want low taxes. I want a small state. You know, I want the economy to grow. But like I say, you won't know me, but you will after tonight. Thank you.
David Allen, who is aware that it's first past the post, not first two past the post for this one.
Thank you very much for that plug. Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. One of the questions that was never answered adequately in my view, and still hasn't been answered adequately, is what is the point of UKIP now? It certainly hasn't been answered to the satisfaction of our voters, because they left us in droves. And it hasn't been answered to the satisfaction of our members. If you look at it, the only cliff edge involved in Brexit is among our members. The party is in trouble, but there's only one way forward. And really, and that is to present a vision to the people of the country with an intellectual clarity and substance. And so far, I've not heard anybody actually answer what that might be. One of the things that I'm passionate about is...
Speak up, Davey, can you please?
One of the things I'm passionate about is voting reform. So much so that I've designed a new voting system, and I'm constantly in discussion with various people on the internet about the rights and the wrongs of that. But I think the one thing we need to do is to get a group back to relevance people who are of a like mind. Now, it's been mentioned before, and I would concur, this is really a watershed for you. In fact, over time, I think we should rebrand. Once Brexit is done, then the name doesn't really fit with what the party is, which is libertarian. Low tax, freedom, independence. But we have been associated with a single project, and we do not want to be associated with another single project in its entirety. So there is a way forward, and that way forward is cooperation with policies and an agenda that already has some support in the country. There are many things that need to be tackled, but it's done much better from a position of strength rather than a position of weakness. Principally, leadership is about getting us from where we are now to where we need to be. Not just saying where we need to be, but actually having a mechanism in place to do that. Now, the internal party structure is an issue.
30 seconds, please.
Major problem. That has to be dealt with, but effectively to focus on that is simply navel-gazing. It's an organisational thing. You think about this, organisation structure is enabling. Policy is paramount, vision is paramount. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Curtin, our own London Assembly member.
Thank you very much. So I'm the third of three Davids here tonight, so I hope that doesn't get too confusing. With UKIP, I'm very excited about the future of UKIP. The press are writing us off, as usual. We didn't do very well this year in Stoke, in the local elections, in the national elections, and that's a shame. But I'm very excited because with this leadership contest, we have a chance to rise up and to come back, very, very strongly. And I think this is our time to do that. The Conservatives obviously are in disarray. Labour promised lots of things but will deliver. But I think with a very strong policy platform that we do have, that we can make that difference. And I know many of you joined UKIP for different reasons. The reason I joined was, like many of you, concerned about the European Union, particularly concerned about TTIP. And because of UKIP, that has gone and is off the table. There are some of you who are concerned about the rise of radical Islam, and that's something that we will speak to. There's many of you also who are concerned, as I am, about what happens after Brexit, that we actually create the country after we leave the European Union where our young people have the skills that they need to survive and thrive in this country. And one thing I speak about a lot is the need to be self-sufficient as a nation in skills and in education, build an education system that gives our young people those skills that they need, so we don't need to import immigrants to do the jobs which we should be training our young people to do, particularly in the NHS and things like that. We also are a party that speaks to free speech, and I think there is an attack on what people are allowed to say in this country at the moment. I'm sure you all feel it, the politically correct culture of the political class, particularly on certain issues like talking about radical Islam. But also another thing that I see much concern about among families is the push to force schools to teach transgender education in primary schools and preschools. And that's something that is a very, very great concern to a lot of parents around the country. And I would stand on a platform of family values as well, and the right of parents to be primary educators of their children and not to be told by the state what they must and mustn't teach their children. That's something that I think we can speak to. The Conservative Party are now following the progressive left in this, and it's an open goal for us if we adopt that as a policy and speak strongly on it. But to do that, of course, as some of the other candidates have mentioned, we've got to reform the party from the inside. This has been a party that has existed to win the right to have a referendum and to win that referendum, which we have done. But now we need to move on, and we need to put the proper structures in place in the party. We need a press department, we need a fundraising department, we need a membership services department, we need someone to look after patrons, we need people in the media to look at the old media and deal with that, but also the new media and the social media as well. With all of those things, we can thrive and we can make a difference to this country, which I know you want and the country wants as well.
Right, now, at this point I think we break out into song or something because Anne-Marie Waters is in the building. But it's going to be eating into her 3-minute talking time. Is she there? Right, right. If Bill doesn't mind standing in for Anne-Marie or something like that. Please go ahead. Anne-Marie, go for it. How does that go?
Well, thank you. What a pleasure to have that honour. Here we are, the most successful political movement in British history. The single most successful movement. Why are we beating ourselves up? Why are we complaining? Look, we've had tough football means and finances and we've achieved Champions League results. It's been down to you guys, it's been down to the effort that's gone in all around the country. It's not been because of a NEC that's been great. It's not been because of the establishment, wherever that is. People keep saying, oh, where is it? I'd like to find it. I'd like to find out who they are. But the point is, it's nothing to do with that. We are a movement and we've achieved fantastic success. And now, we think of where we go from here. Well, the reason I'm joining this movement, the reason why I hope that you'll buy into my idea of where this party is, that's your money. All of these things, foreign aid going out of control, that's your money. Let's make a stand. Let's make a stand and say that everything we do in this party has one thing at its core, in its DNA: freedom.
Yes.
Freedom, liberty for the individual against the state. The state, diminished in size, must be our servant. We, the individuals, must be the master. And the only force that can make that happen is the People's Army. It's all of us. We can do it. We've got to pick ourselves back up. We've had a bad trot, so what? Let's get on with getting it right. The movement is here. The people are here. All around us. We can do it. We can reorganise, we can restructure, but let's believe in something, and that thing we must believe in our hearts, is freedom, liberty, patriotism, and love of our great country. Thank you.
It's because Anne-Marie needs a couple of minutes to get her breath back. John Rhys-Evans!
I probably won't need 3 minutes because I'm going to be very frank and I'm going to get straight to the point. Now the reality is that about a year ago we were polling about 13% in the polls. Last month we polled 1.8% in the polls. So something seriously has gone wrong with our party. And you know, it's extraordinary to me because I've spent a lot of time travelling throughout this country, meeting people in all sorts of constituencies, including up in Scotland, and what I've noticed everywhere I've gone is that the people I've met are the most patriotic, selfless, kind people I've met anywhere in the world. And for us to be polling at 1.8% is just incredible. You know, one of the definitions of insanity is that if you carry on doing what you've always done before and expect to get a different outcome, you are quite simply insane. Now, look what happened 8 months ago. We elected a thoroughly decent bloke, very nice man that I like, but someone who frankly didn't want the job. He didn't have a clear vision for the future of this party. He was essentially a safe pair of hands. I'm going to ask you tonight, do you want to make the same mistake again?
No.
Do you want a safe pair of hands, or do you want somebody with a unique vision, who frankly knows how to transform this party from something that's polling at 1.8% into something that is fit to become the government of the United Kingdom?
Please, Anne-Marie Waters.
First of all, my apologies. Don't use the Northern Line at the moment. I'm sure it'll be fine. Or go down the wrong way down Old Street. So my apologies for being late and so rushed. But things have gone wrong with UKIP. To go down from the percentage we're on to the percentage we're at now is because of a lot of things. And largely because of Brexit. Because Brexit was won. People drifted away to the Tories because they thought that the Tories were the safe pair of hands when it came to Brexit. What essentially UKIP's raison d'etre had been taken by the mainstream, and that remains the case. Now, what we must do now is introduce real change, not just a debate about things we might change in the future, not a debate about how we govern ourselves. I think people are tired of talking and they want some real action taken. Now what we need to do is get back to basics. We need to clear away all the fog and start speaking in plain English again to the people who haven't been listened to for years. There are millions and millions of them. Sadly, there is still some intent not to listen to them. I suggest we do. I suggest we focus on the basics and on getting the basics right. What people want is a job, house, their kids to be safe on the streets, to have decent transport, to have police, to have law and order. That is what we must offer them within this society. It can't all be about international politics or even national politics. We have to bring it down to the streets. We want bobbies on the streets. We want kids to be safe. We want an NHS that isn't going up 400% in waiting times every year. This is what people care about. This is not political theory, but this is what people care about. But you've got to reach them. You've got to reach them. And you've got to reach them with honesty and courage. That is what the appetite is for. You can see it all over the Western world is turning. There's a revolution towards honesty. Now don't buy into this single issue nonsense. It is not. These are profoundly important issues which affect our lives now and most certainly your children's future. So stand up, say it plainly, and that will gain the trust, and then you can start speaking to the people again, not the media and not the politicians, but the people, and that's what we need to do.
Right. Since we've had at least 15 people come in since we started, and one of them is a candidate, it behooves me to repeat the basic instructions. Well, you had your 3-minute speeches, now it's our turn. You will be given 6 tokens each. Each token is the right to take on a question. You won't know what the following questions are going to be. All that I will guarantee to do is to try and randomize the questions. You don't get a series of similar ones after each other. But the questions are well-rounded. There's also questions in you, because all things being equal, if you can get that question out in 15 seconds or maybe 20, do it yourselves. But pass it to somebody, pass it to us. If you've got my phone number here, text, SMS it to me, don't send an email, SMS it to me. If you want my number, it is 07802 872 591. 07802 872 591. Right? Do that. Yes, a few doing it. You can text it to me right now. However, pass them on. We want to get as many questions in as possible. 6 tokens means, I've done the maths already, that means if each candidate spends 1 minute, a full minute, which some will, and some will go a bit over, plus about 20 or 30 seconds for the question, plus other wriggle time and waffle time, that's going to be probably an hour gone. Then we'll see whether we can dish out any more tokens. We'll see whether some candidates are avoiding it. Because here's the wild card. Any question which I think, in my judgment, but some of you can help me with this, ask him that one, or her, we do it. Yeah, because they can't duck a question, because they don't like it. So, to me, this seems generally fair. Also, it's not what they expected, and all I can promise you, hand on heart, cross to die, none of them knew this before. None. Yep, I don't do favorites, and if I got some of you like me, yeah, enough waffle. So, let's start with the question. Come on the floor. Quick question, 15 to 20 seconds here. Somebody. Here. Pat.
People want jobs. I know what it's like. I've reached a certain age, and I keep getting displaced in the workplace by younger people. People want jobs. How are you going to make those jobs happen?
Right. You want one, right? Come on.
Right, okay.
Go on.
How are we going to make jobs happen? Excuse me, how are we going to make jobs happen? We have the opportunity for an industrial renaissance in this country. The policies and ideas of this party weren't put forward properly in the election. Cheaper energy, better employment rules, the chance for people to come in, and also a simple, civilised, points-based system to make sure that people don't come in mass numbers to flood the jobs market. That's what we've got. We must focus on the economy, because the economy is the way for jobs, money, housing, education, everything else we need to keep.
Would you like to add something? Because she said young people. Yeah. Right. How are you going to put the young?
Displaced by young people.
Yes. Being displaced by young people.
For everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone. Even old people.
Well, far from it. The point of the matter is, young people coming into the country, searching for work, displacing everyone. The point is we have to control that. If there is no requirement for that person to come in, they don't have a skill we don't have here, the point system will stop them doing it. But under my ideas for the economy, this party's ideas already out there, but even a bigger economy with more jobs and more money for everyone. We haven't solved it, we've not spoken about it, we get sidetracked. Let's talk about the great opportunity for a post-Brexit economic renaissance in this country. It'll be wonderful. Let's sell it, let's be happy. Blue skies.
Thank you, Bill. Now, who else wants to take this on? Right, John.
Yes, so I think there are a number of things that we can do, but what I want to say to begin with is that I think that the way that we formulate policy should be joined up, it should be more holistic. So rather than just looking at one sector and making policies that apply to that, we need to look at different sectors at the same time. So for example, we need to look at education and we also need to look at industry simultaneously. What I see in the Welsh valleys is we've got a lot of youngsters who like doing mechanics, they like fixing cars and that kind of thing. They're not interested in an academic career. And yet the bias of our education right now is to push everybody into academics, because of course this government has the obsession that they want to keep everybody in higher education as long as possible so that they don't become an unemployment statistic. What I would like to see is pushing hard this policy at around about the age of 14 years old. The parents consult with the teachers and say, look, frankly, our child, he's not interested in academics.
Thank you. Right, next one. Good. Thank you.
63% of households in the UK receive a benefit, and welfare spending has increased by 50% since 1999. We spend £250 billion a year roughly on welfare. Now, I think that one of the main things we can do is reduce that encouragement of non-productive activity. We have an unproductive economy. And in our previous manifesto, we talked about our desire to balance the books, moving apparently slightly off. And we need to make it smaller. Not just a little, but a great deal. I also think that we need to take some of the burden away from people who are productive. So, for example, employment regulations, I would like to see 80% of those done away with. We spend approximately...
And you're not going to spend any more time on it, eh? Thank you so much. Excellent point, perfectly ended. Thank you, Aidan. Anyone else want to take it? You don't have to take these questions, yeah? You want it?
This is a great question because it brings us to bread and butter economics. And again, what we need to start getting right are the basics and the bread and butter issues. First thing we have to do as a matter of urgency is to rein in the welfare state so we can reduce taxes and get people spending again. This is basic economics. I want us to stay a small business economy. These are enormous employers. They keep standards high. I want us to encourage them. For example, by cutting back regulation and taxes on high streets. This is the role effect that you get. Encourage innovation, encourage creativity, encourage entrepreneurship by strangling people. And of course, when we get out of the EU, we get a fresh start. We can have as few, start getting rid of those regulations, start reining in the waste in the welfare state so we can lower taxes and regenerate small business economy. This is bread and butter stuff. If we get those basics right, jobs will start to lower.
David Allen.
We have a number of systemic failures in our society. One of those is employment, where we have created a low-wage economy where people cannot earn enough money to live, yet they are. Now, we know that Brexit creates a great opportunity. None of us in this room disagree with that. But we also need to make some fundamental changes to how society and the state works, particularly with regard to the excesses of globalisation. But it remains a simple fact that where we are now as a party, we can do none of this. Our 2017 manifesto was probably the best out there, and nobody took any notice. We need a path back to relevance as the first thing. All of these things will come from that. But we need an economy which is growing GDP per head and not just GDP. Because that simply is an extra bottle of milk. 7 million people.
7 million of them indeed. Correct. Now, lots of you using up tokens fast. You want to use yours, one? Yours as well. Yeah, all right, quickly.
I'm a businessman all my life. I've created jobs. I know what it's like to do that. One of the most important things we have to do, the Conservative Party are the wholly bought and paid for party of large business. The Labour Party are wholly owned by the trade unions. Nobody represents small business. Nobody represents the little guy. I want to see commerce taught in schools. I want to see every kid given a chance to find out how to do VAT returns. One of the hardest things you do when you start a business is that. The future for us is small business, and that's what we should be going for. There are a lot of people out there. There are people. So let's go after them.
And I won't use my question, my token on it. So, I have one now. It comes from Enfield and Haringey. It's a loaded question. Most of these are. Direct democracy. There was an experiment before, and I'm going to break my own 15 seconds rule, sorry. You have to know the background. The NEC tried an open forum to discuss things. It broke up because of libel, defamation, all sorts of horrible slander, attacks, and so on. They shut down the forum. Direct democracy, key to it working is we discuss the policies in a forum, members only. So loads of our members are infiltrators, as we have infiltrators. Sorry, my Conservative Party membership card slipped a bit. Yeah? So we all have them. So how could direct democracy possibly work if the forum can't be open for free discussions? Now, you can use your tokens, but I tell you what, if he doesn't use his token on this one, I can think of one candidate who's going to get it, so it might be smarter not to use your token on it. However, you want to use it anyway. Great. John Rees Evans.
I'm sorry I've got so little time, so I'm going to talk very quickly indeed. How we prevent random policies that are incoherent is precisely by utilising the talent we have in the party to direct the process of policy making. I was incredibly impressed when I went to the Institute of Economic Affairs and I saw the kind of work that Bill is doing with various other MEPs and whatnot, inviting experts from all over the country to come and deliberate and to debate policy. I would like to see the leadership leading in that capacity, but feeding in these policies into the direct democracy system, so that all of these people, these experts who think they often know much more than we do, and sometimes they do, understand that the onus is on them to convince us, the members, using the concept of democracy to go along with them and advance those policies to national level.
I'm not sure perhaps I didn't enunciate it properly. The problem with when the NEC opened up their discussions is because of fighting. Fighting breaks out in the forum. There's insults, there's libel, there's all sorts of stuff, and then lawyers get involved. How would your direct democracy forum, this is where somebody puts out a policy and then they talk about it a lot. And direct democracy is not just for one, but for two of the candidates have a big issue. So, I'm not sure I had an answer to that, John.
Thank you for an extra minute. So, yeah, ultimately, whenever we're debating anything, people become impassioned. I'd far rather see a situation in which people have differing views and want to debate about it, and sometimes will inevitably insult one another, but it's a simple matter. Forums are moderated. And what I would say at the outset is that when I created that proposal that went to Paul Nuttall, I stipulated two prerequisites prior to implementing direct democracy within the party. And one was that we modify the constitution such that it becomes impossible to advance any policy that will militate against the established core values of our party. And by doing that, it doesn't matter if 10,000 people from the Labour Party try to infiltrate us. Nothing that they push forward that militates against our core values will be accepted.
Thank you, John. David Allen.
Now, I am a Democrat and I'm a supporter of democracy. And direct democracy does have a place, but like most things, the devil is in the detail. There's a great quote about direct democracy. It's a wonderful way for people to get what they want. That's also its biggest disadvantage. So it depends on how that's going to be implemented. Firstly, one of the other critical things in this country is that we do not have a fair representation in our legislature at all. It is hugely artificial. It polarises politics to an enormous degree. We saw that in the last election. So, the way back to the question, how do you prevent this from happening? You need to have rules about it. It can work. It seems to work quite well in Switzerland, where they've used it for quite some time. It does mean more referendums. I'm in favour of referendums for major issues, but it's a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you, David. And then David Coe.
Direct democracy sounds great in theory, and part of my policies are to have more say from members. We need to put into place a process where members can have more say. But even the discussion about it now is complex. And how are we going to sell that to the electorate? How do you involve the electorate in these discussions about complex political issues? There will be endless arguing, endless bureaucracy, frankly, and it will be almost impossible to sell to the electorate. I don't think the people want to be the government. I think they want to elect a government they can trust and let them get on with it and only call on them for really fundamental matters and get on with the job of leadership, the job they elect us to do. I would, however, want us to push proportional representation for greater fairness in Parliament, but I don't think people want to be involved in politics all the time. I think they want to elect us to get on with it.
You want us within UKIP to operate direct democracy. I've understood you don't want it to be out there. You want the government to govern. What about within UKIP? I'm not clear.
I want us to have a clear. This is one of the first things we have to do, by the way, after the leadership election, is sort out the format and the running of this party. That and a Brexit strategy is day one, as far as I'm concerned. It's how we organise this party. All over the country, people complain constantly about having no access to the leadership. These things we have to deal with.
Thank you. Now, Ben Walker put his hand up a bit later, but he hasn't had a go yet. And David Curtin now has. But David, your story, you're a wise man. Ben.
I did it earlier, you just didn't see me, Philip.
I'm sorry. This is UKIP, we don't do something.
I know. Right, so, direct democracy. I am a huge supporter of that, a huge advocate, but that has to be within our party. And for it to work, we have to change our structure. Our policy making, previously to the elections that have passed, they've not been about what you guys kind of think. You've had no input in our policy, and that's the first thing that we need to change. What I would like to see is that branches, regional chairs, county chairs, have some sort of seat within, say, it could be the NEC, or some sort of overarching committee whereby you, as branches, can discuss things. You can hammer out policy, that can get passed up through the hierarchy, through the structure, and then it hits the top. And I want to see a professional policy-making unit, you know, not someone, couple of MEPs or whatever, or, you know, paid officers sat around in the darkened room. It's got to be about what you want, all right? Not what that system team wants. You know, yeah, we might have good ideas, but as a collective, we're much stronger. So yes, direct democracy works, but it'll work better with a better structure.
Thank you. Thank you. This neighbour. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, with the direct democracy, I think what we need to do is harness the talents of the party, because this is an incredible party with so many experts, so many people who have worked in so many different fields, health, education, whatever, and we just don't get people's ideas enough. I have people write to me directly, and they get to me as the education spokesman because they write to me directly. But at the moment there's a system that's supposed to be in place where people tell their branch, and then the branch sends it to the region, and then the region sends it up through wherever, and sometimes it doesn't get to me. We need to have a policy team that works all year round. What we do at the moment is we just wait till there's an election and panic and then write a manifesto. But we need to be responding to policy as it goes. We need that to be working 365 days a year. As for direct democracy, it's a good idea, but we do need to be careful with it. I think it's a great thing for getting
which was much better. And they did it by getting all the area group leaders together. We sat down in a room and we sweated over it. We got it sorted out. We did it in about 5 hours. And we got it, but they talked to their people, they came to others. Having open direct democracy, I'm afraid we did it before, it ended up with the most appalling squabbles, and it had name calling and mad stuff coming out that went all over the Daily Mail every single day. The NEC had to close it down. I believe in people talking, I believe in having forums where we're all there physically. The trouble with doing it on the internet, it gets out of control. Now, a modern political party, you try and run it like that, it will not win. I want to see a win seat. I want to see us getting bums on green leather in the House of Commons. And we won't do that by having a madhouse of people screaming at each other. There are too many internet warriors sitting there in their underpants in their bedrooms writing the most awful rubbish. Believe you me,
New question from the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Nick McGough is present tonight. He's asked me to ask a question about transparency and funding. Do you think that the MEPs and the Assembly members elected on the party list should provide financial support to the party, and if so, how much? And do you think it appropriate for these people to be employing siblings and partners? Thank you.
Yes, I think it's important that those of us who are elected pay into the party, and I'm very happy to say, and I've just pointed out, I've paid in tens of thousands. And I know David's done the same in Scotland, and many other MEPs have. The point is, this is a poor party, and when we're elected to a position, we have to pay in. The problem I have is when people say, oh, we've only paid this much to the central party. How about the regions? We keep regions running, we throw money at it, we self-fund our own elections, we don't get anything back from that. And quite frankly, I think it's a disgrace when people are putting money into the party for people to try and make political points out of it. Let's look at the ones who don't put a penny in, let's find out who they are. And I think you might be very interested when you do find out who they are. Many of us put in a hell of a lot, we're very happy to do so, and we throw everything we've got and helping this party and our local activists, as well as paying for excessive salaries and crazy lifestyles in London at head office.
Okay, MEPs and AM, should they pay into the party? Absolutely yes, there's already an agreement to do that, and you'll find there's a large proportion of them that do not. I won't name and shame, you can ask them yourselves. You know, Bill is quite right, he has put lots of money into the party and doesn't pay. I commend you for that, Bill, I'm very pleased that you do. You're one of the very few. But the truth of the matter is, there's council candidates out there who fund their own campaigns as well. So let's talk about you guys again, you know, we're all doing it, we're all bearing the cost, and that's got to be taken into account. So yes, transparency is absolutely key, and I think that should run right through what we do as a party. You know, for us, it's worse than any other party because the spotlight's on us, so we've got to be better than that. Should staff be employed?
No, it's should siblings, partners, spouses.
No.
Why not? Why not? What's the rule with the MEPs?
We're not allowed to.
Which one is it?
We're not allowed to.
Yes, you're an MEP.
But just as a point of clarification that's been asked, in the European Parliament rules, if it's a sibling or a spouse, you're not allowed to employ them on your team. That's the European ruling. It's against all.
But it doesn't apply to assembly.
Yes.
Anyone? Everybody. David, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just need to correct something that Ben said. He said there's an agreement in place for MEPs and AMs to give a certain amount of money to the party. That isn't so for the London Assembly. I don't think it's true for the Welsh Assembly either, but it might be true for MEPs. MEPs earn quite a lot of money, so Bill gives to the party, that's fine. London Assembly that I'm on, I don't think I should be obligated to pay to the party because I earn a lot less than an MEP. That's my own position. I earn less take home than I did when I was a teacher, and I've been a teacher for 20 years. So I'm just being honest to you about my own financial position. If I were an MEP, I would certainly give to the party, but I earn much less. If I was elected as an MP, that's a different story, and we can talk about that. But I just needed to clarify your point. You're actually wrong on that. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillors who don't get any money paid, £35 a month.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Yes. Take it out.
Can I say, I think this is absolutely crazy. There is nothing more divisive in a party than a kind of compulsory voluntary donations for what you earn. Do a job, you get paid. Now, as a small party, we do need money, but one of my platforms for electoral reform would be to change the way that political parties are funded. I mean, there's really nothing more divisive. We've had it already. Well, some people pay him, he doesn't. You'll split a party quicker than anything if you go that way. People should get paid for the jobs that they do. Funding is a separate issue. In the longer term, and nationally, this is an argument that has yet to be won. But we need to prevent the funding of political parties from vested interest, which is a major and significant cause of our political instability. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I totally agree with my friend here. I think it's very dangerous that sort of thing. It is divisive. I give money to Scotland. I got permission from the NEC, as did Nathan Gill, to give money to our respective countries, simply because they weren't getting any money from the centre. So I give to that. I had a £700 dinner, which I paid for 5 millionaires, and we got quite a lot of money out of that. Cost a fair bit of money, but there you are. The thing is, we do need to get money in, but I would hope that if we had better policies, instead of some of the awful policies we had in the last election, we might actually get people donating more money. And I think that's the problem. We're not getting the right policies, and we're not showing the right sort of stability that people want to give us money. I have people up in Scotland, multi-millionaires, that want to give us money, but they are worried about the instability of the party here at the centre in London. And they're not obviously London region, we're talking about the party. That worries them. Large salaries going to employees. So, quite honestly, I think a little more housekeeping needs to be done. And certainly we don't need to have swanky headquarters. That can be cut down.
Thank you, David. Yeah, we're going to get through them. Right, I'm merging two questions. One is from a former Eastern Regional Chairman. How do we combat left-wing indoctrination in school? And I'm combining the question from my taxi driver, who's a UKIP, will you bring back hanging? His question. Mr. Curtin, you're not using your tokens wisely, are you?
I think I am, sir. Ofsted has been infiltrated completely by the left-wing red blob. Ofsted is the organisation, if you don't know, that is controls standards in education and gives schools their grading, and they are full of people who are pushing the left-wing progressive political agenda. Ofsted needs root and branch reform. It needs the people in the top to be sacked and to put in people who are going to pursue common sense policies in education. That's quite simply how it is.
Thank you. hanging. Referendum. Mr. Colbert.
In Scotland, UKIP had its biggest victory in stopping the Named Person Act, which I think it was the European Court of Justice said was almost a fascist piece of legislation. It meant that every home in Scotland had a commissar to make sure that people brought up their children the way the state thought they should be brought up. UKIP were instrumental in stopping that. It kicked up an enormous hoo-ha in Scotland. So I'm all for that. I think we've got to stop left-wing indoctrination. I think he does a good job on that, and he speaks well on that subject, and I think we should do that. On hanging, well, I have no moral problem with hanging at all. None whatsoever. But, here's the big but. They stopped sending people to Australia and hanging people in the late 18th century and the early 19th century because juries refused to convict. Now I think the problem with hanging is there are so many vegetarians, ruralitarians, all sorts of people with all sorts of views that do not want
Venezuelan-based government, how will you stop it?
China.
David, to Venezuela, because then we're returning to something more capitalist. I think what we need to do is we need to take on the Labour Party. We need to take on the normal people of the Labour Party who do not believe in a socialist nirvana, or even people, working class people, who feel that the Labour Party is their home. They've got to be persuaded by us that we care about them, that we want an economy that cares about the ordinary working man. And that's the problem we've got at the moment. The Tories don't care about the working man. They claim they do, but they don't. And the Labour Party, they only care about the trade union bosses and town hall fat cats. They don't care about the ordinary person. We've got that message through to them, that we don't care about the town hall fat cats, we care about them. That will get people coming over to us. That will destroy the Labour Party.
Thank you, David.
You know, I think the main reason that the Labour Party is looking so popular now is because a lot of young people, particularly young people, are disillusioned with parliamentary democracy in this country. You look back over the last 3 general elections, 2 out of 3 of them you've had hung parliament, and the only one where you haven't has essentially been because the people wanted Brexit. What the people are experiencing is massive frustration with the fact that parliamentary democracy is not capable of delivering to them what they want. I want UKIP's raison d'etre to be that organisation that imposes the will of the British people on the government. Once we reconfigure ourselves in such a way that if people join our party, they will know they have the means to make the government their servant, the popularity of Labour will dwindle and people will come across to us, following the rebranding and all the kind of dissociation, the negativity of the past.
Thank you.
No one wants to target Labour areas more than I do, but you don't start off by insulting them as crazy lefty socialists. You reach out to them.
Bolivarian Venezuela.
Talking about their on-the-street issues. That is how you reach out to the Labour Party. You put police on their streets, bring down their waiting times, have some decent jobs and some decent schools. You do not go around telling everyone a crazy socialist. You start talking to people, talking about what they care about, and they do care about the NHS, they do care about the welfare state. It's not all about shirkers and scroungers. So if you're going to reach out, you have to realise how important the NHS is, how important the welfare state is to many people who actually need it. Don't insult people if you're trying to win them over.
One thing that a lot of people care about is the environment, and our party is often ridiculed for being flat earthers and that sort of thing. People denying climate change. We might think it, but is it good politics to be going against what the vast majority of people believe? That the air is dirty, that the climate is a problem, that there is more extreme weather, and that we ought to be more in a line with the general public opinion on this.
Just a second here, because there's another question very similar to it. Thank you, it's a good question. I didn't know it was coming. You're from the Tower Hamlets branch. Indeed. Now, what was the question? The question was, should we Should we go against what the majority of people think? Should we just secretly think, yes, climate change is not caused largely by man, and therefore should we become more electable by so doing? I've got a question from the Lambeth branch, which says, UKIP says there is no basis in the science for the carbon dioxide hypothesis of global warming. Contrary to our government policy, other countries are building 1,600 new coal-fired power stations. What's your view of this issue? What's your view of this issue? People, friends, David Allen, you did it.
Well, I have to say, wholeheartedly, I agree with that analysis.
Which one?
CO2 is not a resultant of global warming. It in fact comes the other way around. There's a great deal of scientific evidence to suggest that that is the case. However, in my view, that is completely and utterly irrelevant, because I am a supporter of renewable energy that is functional and that works. There are other reasons for that. One of the principal issues we have at the moment with Islamic terrorism is not necessarily because of the ideology, because that's been there for 1400 years. It is because they are funded. The funding comes from Arab states. The Arab states get their money because of our dependence upon oil. The second great reason is that at some point in the future, the fossil fuels will run out. The issue of pollution is a major one. We really have to deal with pollution. It's a functional one.
Another problem is you're out of time, Dave.
Thank you. Look, there are real environmental problems. There's no one can doubt that. I think deforestation is a big problem. I think plastics in the ocean is a big problem. Nitrogen dioxide in the air is a big problem. Carbon dioxide is not a big problem. There's no question that carbon dioxide levels are increasing. Now, that this year it's about 410 parts per million. It's going up about 3 parts per million a year. Is it causing huge global warming? No. It's causing some, but because of the way it absorbs infrared radiation, it's not a simple case of doubling carbon dioxide doubles the global temperature. Anyone who knows anything about science or chemistry knows that water vapor absorbs far, far more than carbon dioxide. But the BBC doesn't tell you that. They won't scare you. And wind farm barons and solar barons get loads and loads of government subsidy. It's a scam.
Thank you, David.
Fan of wormeries and making compost, like Monty Don and baking, all that sort of stuff. I'm very green in myself, and most of my colours are pre-war. Anyway, long and short of it is the renewables are a racket, as David said. There's too much nonsense going on. It's quite clear that it's to make people rich at the expense of pensioners not being able to put the third power and the electric fire on. So I think we should listen, as the gentleman said. We should maybe listen about stuff that is good for the atmosphere, getting filth out of it, clearing up the seas from plastic, all that sort of stuff. We should emphasise that a bit more, but I don't think we should fall completely behind the CO2 racket. But I do think we should listen and be more better in dealing with that. We need to change our policy a bit.
Thank you so much. Perfect timing. Anyone else? Aidan, you are trailing right now. You've only answered one so far. It's up to you.
The gentleman asked about the politics of it. And the politics are the Green Party is a very weak party. UKIP plus the Greens are not going to seize power. The Greens are not the people we should be focusing on.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm under instructions from Richard Brain not to talk, but I will talk here. 300, when I was in school, 300 parts per million was what the carbon dioxide level was. Now it's about 400 parts per million. The peak, which it has been on the planet, has been rather larger than that. Since carbon dioxide levels have been 30%, that's 300,000 parts per million. So what the hell are we arguing about these small bits? And parts grow more and then they eat up more. If the whole thing might be correct, but we've only got one life. Anyway, so political discussion, not a science one. I want to move on to another question. If I may, and Stuart Agnew is shifting around very shiftily.
Thank you, Chairman.
No parties out questions.
Will any Will the new leader address the fact that 100,000 cases of FGM have not been prosecuted despite the fact it's against the law, and that our schools, our mosques and our prisons, we are seeing people being radicalised to hurt people in this country? What are you going to do about it?
Well, what we shouldn't do about it is become radically anti-Islamic. That is a disaster. We will get no votes there. The manifesto we had at the last election was simply useless. It turned people off. We cannot go against one part of society. I believe that face coverings, the group we had, no face coverings, was the right idea. Talking about the Islamic face veil and all the rest of it was wrong. We should stick to talking about face coverings. Face coverings are not acceptable. But if we go down this route of a radical anti-Islam, we are going to have trouble. And I don't understand what you want to do about it. That's the trouble. And he was always banging on about this. We should bang on about nothing else. And the trouble is, we are political parties, and we need to win an election.
Now, David, we've heard a lot of you. I'm just warning you, you're on 5 tokens. You start 5 out of 6. Now, somebody else. Come on, take them on. Anne-Marie, write a reply. Then you read.
You know, again, we were asked about tens of thousands of girls who've had their genitals mutilated and will suffer medically and physically for life because of it. It's happening in this country despite being against the law, and nobody will touch it because they get things like this thrown at them when they attempt to. This idea that you have to be radically anti-Islam to tell the truth and enforce the law is exactly the problem. People in this country care about this. They will say so. The law. We have hospital units in this city where people are taken, dedicated to the medical aftermath of this horrific crime. If they can go to hospitals, then we can know who they are and we can start arresting them. We can start jailing them and deporting them. With the mosques, we know our mosques who are preaching this stuff. They are breaking the law. Now, some people may think undermining British authority and undermining the law is not a big issue. I think it's a huge one, and a million.
As is the clock. Thank you.
So I received my election address back twice, probably from 2 people who knew each other. And on the election addresses I got back through my post boxes, it said UKIP equals Nazi. Now, I think if we take a look at what just happened in the general election, UKIP was a party that appeared to stand for zero immigration and ban the birth. What it seems to me is the case is that UKIP cannot, in fact, succeed so long as it is widely the majority of them are not breaking the law. Of course, Anne-Marie is right. They should enforce the law and indeed increase the
and the park bins okay. Right, James Corbyn. Right now, hang on, you're on your 6th, mate. You're going to be silent for a long time after this.
I am for enforcing the law. I don't believe there should be any Sharia law or any other law than the law of the Queen. That is the law of this country. And quite frankly, I do not think we should be, well, put it this way, we cannot enforce the law we already got. Why don't we get them to enforce the law we already have?
That's the point. That's the point, David.
Let's get through that. We don't need the extra laws. We need to enforce the law we already have. And as for FGM, it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. But quite honestly, it's something that has to be tackled by the medical authorities, and they should enforce the law. But we don't need any extra laws against Muslims in particular.
Thank you. Now, we're going to. You have got 2 in hand, Henry. You want one? You're behind. You're lagging. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So once we got Brexit and we could no longer use that as our appeal, it seems to me like what the party did was they shifted towards this integration agenda. That's our most conspicuous raft of policies that were put out. and they were quite aggressive. Some of them were quite sensible. Of course, we had things like looking up little girls' skirts, and frankly, if I were a Muslim and my little girl went to school and told me that they had looked up her skirt, I would be incredibly angry. It would actually induce me to move in the direction of radicalism. Now, what I want to say is the concerns that Anne-Marie raises, I absolutely share. The issue I have is that why on earth are we just marginalising Muslims? I used to have 83 Maasai living in my garden. They were animists, and most of them you do FGM on their daughters. So it is not just about Muslims. I've had 300 Muslims working for me. The vast majority of them were decent people, but they've got to obey the British law and respect our values. Their slaughterhouses have to be held to the same account as ours do.
People ganging up on Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie did not mention Islam in her answer. Yep.
The Nazi slur that everyone is so afraid of, why then am I being described in national newspapers as a Nazi? There were liars then, there were concerns about immigration weren't racist, wanting to get out of the EU wasn't racist, and talking about a religion isn't racist. And to pretend that there's no specific issue here is that exactly the kind of dishonest nonsense that the public is sick and tired of. There is an issue with this religion in particular. It is global and it's in this country, and we have to say so. And all this nice talk about enforcing the law, all talk. They won't do it because they're afraid to, because as soon as they do, they're called Nazis and fascists by everyone, including UKIP now.
That the most populous country in Africa is Nigeria. In Nigeria, only 2% of Muslims, the Muslims make up about 40% of the population, practice FGM, while nearly all Christians there do. So this is, I agree to disagree on this too, actually. However, Anne-Marie Waters makes a very valuable point. Why aren't there prosecutions?
No, I never made the assertion that only Muslims do it.
You did not indeed. You did not indeed. You did not. I have defended you already. I have defended you already. Now, people who are behind on the tokens, Ben Walker, who has a lot to say, I'm just telling you, use them wisely, they carry forward. Right, now I've got another question which comes from the organiser, so we all better clap the question as well. Don't get any more organising. It says, as a candidate during the last 2 general elections, he too heard criticisms on the doorstep that we're a single issue party, wasn't Islam then, or this, which only seems to have negative policies. Can you give us an example of positive policies, not things we don't want to do, but things you want to do, and don't just try and please negate the negative. Ben, because you're behind.
Are those oodles? So to start with, let's scrap foreign aid. Let's get rid of it.
Let's get rid of it.
There's money to be saved there. The department that exists already, well, that can be taken up by the Foreign Office. Yet, we keep a small pot of money which will help out in times of disasters in countries. I'm not saying we don't help people. All I'm saying in foreign aid is we don't give a country a welfare payment. We don't keep them impoverished. We're coming out of the EU. Let's trade them. Let's do business. Let's make them richer in that way. I talk about the NHS merging health and social care, make it more joined up again. Save money. There's lots and lots of positives to talk about, and we've got to get this right. To go back a little bit with the Islam thing, that is a problem. It's a massive issue. But the bigger problem is the PC culture that exists within our country, which exists within all of our organisations. If we can tackle that, we can say, right, our next core aim is voting reform. We want PR, so we can make MPs electable.
Great, thank you, Ben.
Get rid of the PC.
Thank you, Bill Etheridge.
Excellent. Positive policies. I've been waiting for this. This is great. At last. Right. Let's talk about slashing sin taxes.
Yes.
Where the state tells us, oh, you shouldn't drink alcohol, naughty boys and girls, you shouldn't have a cigarette, you shouldn't drive a car, you shouldn't do any of these things, so we're going to tax it to the hilt. And what happens? The pub trade dies, the hospitality trade suffers, and black marketeers smuggle the things in and avoid the tax anyway. Not gaining any significant money from it, let's slash them. Let's give a boost to our own economy. Let's change the way we do fuel taxing. Let's stop it so that, as David touched on, pensioners can actually have the heating on in the winter, because we're going to cut the fuel taxes and we're going to stop giving it to the rich. Robin Hood in return, isn't it? We're going to stop doing that. And finally, let's give ourselves the uplift of really different, exciting, radical, new, competitive economic policies. See this country be a powerhouse of the Western world, and people will look on and envy our economy, and frankly, that's what it's all about. It's about the economy. We give people a chance for more money, more jobs, and they will vote for us.
Anyone who's had a moment to have a glance at our Constitution will know that it says there very clearly that no foreign prince, person, prelate, state or potentate hath or ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority or authority within this realm. So how about this for a policy? Why don't we go to the European Union and say, it was your legal responsibility to ensure constitutional compatibility between our country and the European Union prior to giving us access to the European Union. You got us to join up fraudulently, and we're going to sue you for $450 billion.
That was great, wasn't it? But it won't get us elected to any introducing a tinge of reality. At some point in the future, there will be a Labour government. Because there always is. It always happens. It doesn't matter what their policies are, who their leader is. At some point, the British electorate will swing, and there will be a Labour government. And there will be nothing we can do about it unless we make a move towards relevancy. We cannot just sit and wait for Brexit to go wrong. So policies are great, but we have no influence on policy. The major party now is to unite, to move forward with an agreed agenda. And the first thing we need to do, because why this switches Tory, Labour, Tory, Labour, Tory, Labour forever and a day, and jump from one ideology to another ideology, which actually drags us backwards, is because we have a voting system which is completely and totally unfair and archaic. Not just the way we elect members of Parliament, but when they get
Remember the question, just in case we've forgotten, because we've gone a little bit back onto voting systems, David. The question was positive policies. Yeah, right now I know that everything can be dressed up that way. Anyone else wants to take this on? We've got some humdinger questions. Hey, you are behind, so you want.
I've got two positive policies for you. In my election address, I propose that we offer a £1 billion prize to the first company that can mine the asteroid belt profitably. And another thing I want you to think about, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute, is I want you to think about the 1.2 million United Kingdom citizens living in the EU who we can imagine are facing a situation in which they will have to decide whether to take, best case, say a German passport and stay where they are and lose their British citizenship, or alternatively return to the UK and lose the life they built for themselves there. Were we to propose that countries willing to reciprocate were to offer dual citizenship to people living in their respective alien countries, I think it would serve exactly the same purpose as the asteroid mining proposal. It would shift the public's perception of the sort of party that we are.
Thank you, Adrian. Would the asteroid belt be offering citizenships as well? Don't answer that.
Too much.
Thank you. We allow some.
It should be incredibly obvious that our young represent the future of our party. Well, the fact is, our young are generally very competent with using the internet and social media and doing videos and websites and all that kind of thing. So while there will always be a role, and while I fully acknowledge that right now some of the most active people in our party, delivering the most leaflets, canvassing the most doors, are people who frankly are arthritic and moving around on sticks. I've seen this wherever I've gone. The reality is, what we do on social media at the touch of a button can impact hundreds of thousands of people instantaneously, and we are stupid if we do not exploit the potential of that. And the young people are the absolute key to that happening.
No! You six. Let the others use their first. Hey.
So the proportion of the very young who voted Labour doubled between 2017 and 2015. Now, I think a lot of people, if they were thinking about going to university, would be tempted to vote Labour if they had been offered £27,000 for nothing. And I don't think the way forward for a party is to be sectarian, to appeal to particular segments of society. Talking about young people in general, the question should not really be what can the government do for them, or indeed any other section, but rather what they can do for the country, to quote the Americans. So I want us to have general policies that are strong and virtuous, and that is how I want us to attract the young, and indeed the old too.
Thank you, Amy. Something else? David, you're into now, you're into your seventh. We've gone over the sixth. A couple have to catch up. Let's go on. You're accredited.
UKIP in Scotland have more UKIP young kippers to old kippers, percentage-wise, than any other part of the UK. And we attract them because of our libertarian agenda. Unashamedly libertarian. That's what young people want. They want something to believe in. They also want a job. And that's what we also stress. We don't want open-door immigration so anybody can come into the country and take away their jobs. We also want to make sure that they are taught the right things in schools. As I said before, we want to teach commerce in schools. If young people can go out of school, they can't find a job, go build a job, make a job. I did it, so did many other people. Many of you in this room did it. So why not help them to do that, give them the education they require in commerce and business, and let's see all those little buds grow into big flowers.
Thank you, David.
Question more about our party than young people.
Yes, how we attract people in. Yes.
Right. So the truth of the matter is, for years UKIP have loved these little meetings with loads of people sat round, chatting for 2.5 hours and pouring tits off each other. Right, that's the truth of the matter. We're never ever going to engage young people like that. Okay? We need to. What we've done also as a party is we've suppressed talent. Okay? That's got to stop. And again, I go back. It's about our structure. So we do need to do things like John's talking about. Let's embrace all the technology that's out there, which young people can just use so easily. You know, much better than I, and someone can prove that today. But you know, the truth of the matter is, we must engage with them, and we must embrace the change. That's the only way we're going to get people on board. And again, to bounce back, voting reform. If I was elected, I'd want to work with organisations such as Make Votes Matter, teaming with students, desperate to change our system. You know, if we work with them, if we're working alongside them, they'll join us, they will. You know, if we can show that we, and demonstrate that we're a good partner, we're working for the right things, they will come. But we've got to change.
Thank you. We've got lots of new questions coming in, and some from the floor. Sir, you wanted to ask one? You've got one? Yes, sir. In person, so you wrote that. Go ahead.
It's not my question, and I'm a devil's advocate now last week. Can I speak up?
I'm Freddie Reed. I'll do it. Sorry about that. Many working class people have left UKIP and turned to Labour with concerns about the economy. Would any of the candidates consider some responsible and moderate increases in taxation? Leverage.
Never, never, never. The only good tax is a dead tax. Play this establishment game of hiking up taxes. As long as you've got something, that's it, one free jelly on a Wednesday. Don't worry about it, we'll put tax up, we'll give you all a freebie. That's Corbyn's game. We're better than that, right? What we're about is the way you get working class people back is quite straightforward. And I'm going to surprise you now, because you might not tell from my accent. Or I'm working class. I know it's hard to believe. But what working class people want is the ability to earn and work and get their families some form of prosperity. They want to know through their whole hard graft, endeavour and effort that there's a chance for some kind of meritocracy in this country. That's what the working class want. I sit in meetings where people say, I wonder what the working class would think of this. Ask them. They want an opportunity to better themselves. Don't patronise the British working class. It's the British working class who won 2 world wars and got us where we are today. Thank you.
Remember, if you're basically agreeing with him, don't put up your hand. You want from contradicting him, put up your hand then. That's how it works.
Well, it's not a contradiction, it's I'm not in agreement either.
But get up and let us have a go at Tuesday.
Right. I don't see any need for any increase in general taxation at the moment, but I do see a need for, and we've been saying for years, that there are many multinational corporations that don't pay the amount of tax that they ought to, and there are many internet-based companies that do not contribute to the infrastructure in the way that physical businesses do through business rates. I would introduce a concept of pay-per-click business rate taxation, which I would call virtual business rates. Now, it's fairly new, fairly novel, it needs thinking through, but the idea has substantive merit because it cannot be avoided. And it's a way of generating money. I'll tell you, 5 companies, Amazon, eBay, where are we? Google, Facebook,
Starbucks.
one more.
Starbucks.
Not incidentally, between them, on a taxation of this nature, they would pay an extra £1.7 billion a year, just those 5 companies. So, a way to get more money.
Thank you, Aidan. Aidan, go ahead.
Well, I disagree with Bill only in the sense that I would dismantle the state a great deal more rapidly than I think Bill would. I'm going to disagree also in a minor, but nonetheless, relatively minor, but nonetheless important way, namely exemptions. There are exemptions from tax, and some of these create distortion that are very damaging. For example, if you sell your primary residence and you haven't let it out, simplifying, you are exempt from capital gains tax. This has been true for more than 50 years, and it has sucked capital into unproductive housing. Were we to end that exemption, not only would it tend to reduce the price of housing, which some would argue is a good thing, but in a gradual way, over time, as people took the decision whether to sell or not in the light of it, but it would also bring in £15 billion a year, which would not be a trivial contribution to the terrible problem we have that we are going bankrupt.
So a bit of platinum from the nearest asteroid would help.
I'm sure you're going to ask me a critical question about it.
Now, okay, here's a difficult one. And I've just had a phone call from Noel Matthews, who is the guy who was in charge of candidates in 2017. I'm going to combine 2 questions very mischievously. Please forgive me. Please don't jump me out for this one. Will you keep, if you become the leader, starting with the chairman down, who will you keep on within the party? Paul Oaken has cancelled tomorrow's region chairman's meeting because he's got a stomach ulcer, and I can understand why. I'm one of the causes. So, would anyone want to take this question up? David, you're well over. You're sorry. Somebody else. Aidan, you want? That's a brave man. Go on then.
Yes, if actually,
you're going to chuck out.
I'd actually like to start with the spokesman.
No, it's not telling you were going to ask that.
My feeling is that what we should do is appoint entirely new spokesman. We should approach the entire party and try and find the spokesman from the pool of every member. I think the issue of the officers of the party is actually less controversial. The current approach essentially is that that's controlled by the executive, and if we have a new leader there will inevitably be changes, because when people become boss they tend to sweep clean. It's often very stupid.
Who else will you fire?
I've just fired all the spokesmen. I don't need to fire anybody else.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wants to take this poisoned chalice? Ben.
Yeah, I'm to be quite short. So obviously, if I'm elected, and I would like to be elected on a vote of change, okay? So if I can do that, I have a strong mandate to push forward. I want to rewrite our constitution. I think that has to happen. It's old. It needs to update with us, okay? The NEC needs to change. That will be up for debate as well. So the structure of the NEC would change. The first casualty of my first day in office will be the chairman of the party.
Yeah,
should have got it spoken.
Right, thank you then for that. The tweets are going out already. Now, here's the next one. It's very related. This comes from West London, West London branch, not the West London branch. It's come from Seven, also from Epping Forest. How much dosh do you have, friends? Because you have, as the party leader, the Constitution precludes you getting any salary from UKIP. Are you already men and women of means? How will you support yourself financially as the leader of UKIP? You are unpaid. Who wants to take this one up? Mr. Coburn, you're still on borrowed time till others catch up. £80 land, you are entering David Coburn territory with this question.
I'm a small-scale professional landlord. I have a gross income of 80,000. It's not a lot, but it doesn't take a great deal of my time.
This is a 24-hour job.
I know. Yes.
Good.
So that's
it. That's the succinct answer. Bill Etheridge.
Well, the easy one, and it's not what I think it should be a decisive factor at all, but obviously being an elected full-time professional politician who I've got some income from politics. But the point is, what we need to do is change it so that we don't have this situation where this question gets asked every single time. This is the third time I've heard this question asked in the last 18 months. It's not right. What we should have is a situation I'd like to see where members can actually do a performance-related pay for the leader. You know, there's maybe a button on the website. I've already done about this kind of thing.
Running the staff there, the basic infrastructure. Does anyone else want to pick this one up? Anne-Marie, and then David Kirk.
Like I said a few minutes ago, I don't want us to be dependent on individual, on 2 or 3 donors. Now, I'm not saying any of this is going to be easy, and they're going to float into this new phase of the party without any difficulty. Of course there will be problems, and of course there will be issues. But what I don't want to see happening is that if I, for example, got the support of the majority, then that majority be dismissed because a couple of donors don't like me. Instead, what I want us to do is replace how we are funded and stop depending on 1 or 2 millionaires. This is not democracy. Now, I got blamed in the papers for apparently bringing in 1,000 new members in 2 weeks. Well, for my maths, that's £30,000 in 2 weeks. What we need to do is shake up British politics, get people excited and interested, and we can keep that £30,000 in 2 weeks going and going and going, and then we will be dependent only on our members who give us small amounts of money but lots of it. That's the kind of party I want to see.
Thanks very much.
David Curtin there. David Curtin up.
Okay.
So thank you for the 7th question.
7th question.
Okay. So I think we need to do a number of things. You know, in business, you always have people who have very little experience of business wanting to spend more money on this, that and the other. First thing one needs to do is work out where we can cut money. I was horrified to learn that it looks like we've just renewed our rental contract at the cost of something like, well, £56,000 a year for Lexstrom House today. And this is because we have this obsession about unnecessarily using old school methods. Doing things on paper when we could do them instantly and virtually free of charge digitally. Do you know, for us to change one thing in the Constitution costs us about £34,000. If we shifted everything to a predominantly electronic format and had representatives around the country who liaised with those who didn't have access to the internet, we could do it almost instantly at almost no cost. But of course, something else that I'm pushing is UKIP Connect, UKIP Direct. These are both ways of stimulating membership growth. I'd be very surprised if we implement them, we won't have at least 100,000 members within a year. A lot of money from there. Donors will like that and come on board.
Thank you, John.
David Curtin, we do have some very generous donors, and from what I know of them, they are just for the party, and I think they won't pull the plug on the party. We do need to talk to them, but they're very good people. All I can talk about for myself is whether I could bring in money or not. Is I am raising funds to actually stand
for my deposit through crowdfunding. I don't have much money of my own. And so far in 2 weeks, I've raised nearly £5,500 from 110 or so donors. Lots and lots of people I've never heard before who have given that money, just donated it. And many of those donors are people who actually, surprisingly, didn't sign my nomination form as well. So, and I've had emails from people saying, if you're the leader, we're going to join the party, which I think is fantastic. That's only anecdotal, but I think, you know, I would be able to pull in new members. We need to increase our membership so that we're not reliant on one or two big donors, even though they are fantastically generous people.
Thank you, David. Right, you don't have to answer these? No, we'll be clear. So far, Ben Walker is still behind, and David Allen one more. Now, I have some questions. Elizabeth, yes. All right, yeah, quick.
Okay, right. On the 26th of July at Havering Council, there's going to be a vote for Hexit. UKIP brought you Brexit, now UKIP's going to bring you Hexit. What is happening is that Havering is going to have a vote to secede from the GLA. Now, as a party, I support anti-devolution revolution. Do you? If not, why not?
Anti-devolution revolution. Okay, right, we'll digest the question. Do you want to expand on it?
I'll expand on it a bit
Very
further.
little bit.
The regions were set up by the EU when we were a member of the EU. We're now leaving the EU. Thus, the necessity of having the regional assemblies passes. I say that they're a waste of taxpayers' money, they're weakening the country, so let's start the anti-devolution revolution, and do you support Hexit? If not, why not?
Right, okay, right, we have only one assembly, we don't have anyone from Wales here, there's only one assembly member here. Do you want to be abolished, is I think her question. So, in summary, do you want to take it? And Bill Etheridge wants to take it as well.
Yes. Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're doing some great work on the London Assembly. We are putting the heat on Sadiq Khan, but it's there. It would be better if it wasn't there. So, you know, if it was abolished, that would be great. London does need something, though, because of the complexity of London. Even when the GLC, I think, was abolished in the 80s, to the time that the GLA was created again in 2000, there was another body that was needed to be set up to run the police and to run the transport system in London, because London is so complex. Whether we need an assembly there or not, I don't know. Probably we don't need one. And certainly the new city assemblies in the West Midlands, in the west of England, Manchester or so on, is an absolute waste of money. And most of the people living in those cities don't want them. They're another level of politicians. They shouldn't have been created at all. And that's something that we can easily get rid of straight away. I've only got 5 seconds left. I would put perhaps something radical in giving the people of Wales and giving the people of Scotland a vote on whether they wanted to abolish the Welsh Assembly and the Scottish Parliament.
Thank you, David.
Why not? They had a vote to instill them. Why not give them a second?
Thank you, David. Right. Ben Walker, you're using up yours, you're behind.
That called again, sorry?
Hexit, it's Havering, London Borough of Havering is having a vote, it's a UKIP-led vote, to leave the GLA.
Anti-devolution revolution.
That's
love
it.
that. Let's do that.
Isn't it catchy?
Absolutely. What's wrong with that? That sounds fantastic.
Put a colour on it.
Once we're out of the EU and we haven't got our MEPs, you know, we've got that level of bureaucracy gone. You know, we've got a house that's actually making legislation of its own. We'll have MPs that are actually working in the interest of their constituencies. Do we need another level of bureaucracy? No. Get rid of it. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Right, anyone else wants to? David Allen? Yeah?
I've not heard of Hexit before, and I haven't actually given it any thought because I haven't heard of it. But as a general principle, I've always felt that the creation of the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Assembly and moved us into a constitutional areas of real difficulty, particularly with the Melodians.
Right.
And they are, well, you know, there are 59 members of Parliament in Scotland, then you have another 123 members of the Scottish Parliament. There is no way that you can solve the problems by having more politicians. We need less.
Yay.
So that's my general view on that. But I have to say, we are where we are, and as a priority, that's not it. The priority is to get a fairer voting system so that more people get representation.
Thank you. That's 182, by the way. 123 plus 59. Now, we could take a... Bill wants an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to hear from Bill.
Can I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I'm really keen on this question. I like it a lot, and I'll tell you why. On that fantastic night back in 2014, I wasn't just elected as an MEP, I was elected as a councillor in Dudley. What's happened in the West Midlands and in the North West is that the government has put in place these super authorities, the kind of thing that we got rid of back in the 80s and saddled us all with debt. They're bringing them back in. West Midlands Engine, they call it, a Northern Powerhouse, catchy titles. What it actually means is the power comes up away from the people to these giant councils. The debt and the spending commitments come down from the government to these councils, and what you're left with is something totally undemocratic that nobody ever voted for. There were votes in Birmingham and I think in other areas saying, do you want a mayor? No, came the answer, resoundingly. George Osborne said, you're having a mayor. And the final part of this, these were European constructs in order to make the flow of EU money into the UK work more effectively. We must get rid of these things. Lizzie's point is extremely important. Let's have a devolution revolution. Yes.
Thank you, Bill. There's been several proposals for a 2-minute break simply so we can top up with water and other things. Let's do it. Yeah, a couple of minutes. We're just over here. Literally a couple of minutes. Thank you. Right. Now, here's the map. We've given an extra token to most of the candidates, to 5 of them. 3 of them are behind. I'm going to carry that forward into the next session. Now, the 1-minute things are proving too long because we're just not able to get enough questions. So if you don't have anything to say, no one's going to think the worst of you. You're just agreeing with all these sensible chaps and chapesses sitting next to you. So no one thinks the less of you. Let's come back in, even you, David Schofield. Now, Ben Walker, David Allen, and Anne-Marie Waters are all with 1 in credit. Everyone else has answered the same number of questions. They've answered the same number of questions, but 1 fewer. Andrew Price, you will get your chance. Now, I've got a good one here, and it's a good one to kick off with. Which of Nigel Farage's qualities or policies do you most resent, disapprove of, or abhor? Which of Nigel Farage's qualities or policies do you most resent, abhor, or disapprove of? If any. Poison indeed. We've got 30 seconds now, and I'll be timing the 30 seconds. Whoever wants to do it, take it up. David Allen.
Right, I heard Nigel speak on many occasions. Over the last couple of years, wherever you go, wherever you hear him, he does it very well, but he says the same thing. One of the things that happens when leaders have been in the role for a time, they present what they had thought about and developed in their own minds before they became leaders, and it is a continuation of the same thing. Very powerfully said, great guy, voted against him, but that's the only thing I would say. That
is 30 seconds, thank you so much. Anyone else wants to pick this up? Quick. Ben.
The only thing I would really say is I actually rate Nigel Farage hugely. The one thing that I could say that he maybe got wrong was that his idea of we just do it and find the money later. That was a problem for us. You know, you need to budget. You need to have departments within the party that have budgets, that have money to spend. And I say that was the only thing he got wrong, thinking that we can do it and we'll find the money later.
Thank you. I'm not aware he said it, but you may well be right. Good. Anyone else wants to pick up this difficult and dangerous one? David Coburn, was that you? No, you didn't want to put our hand up this time. Oh!
I think the sun shines over this fundament. He has faults, but the things that he does well far exceed the things he does badly.
Right. Okay, let's move on to another one unless somebody else wants to pick this up. Anne-Marie, you've got 1 in hand right now. Let's have questions from the floor. Robert Anderson.
Yes. In 2008 we had a financial crisis. What transpired essentially that the investment banks and commercial banks, retail banking, who merged in the previous 20 years, meant that we were over leveraged as a country. Now there was a Vickers report that was published and it suggested separating these banks so that never again will the real economy be affected by the nutcases who are working over there. And I used
Casino bankers.
One of them. Yeah. Now, we need to address this because we talk about, there's lots of great ideas here. The problem is without money we can't do anything. So Vickers has been put on the back burner. No one's talking about it. It's all about Brexit, naturally. What does the panel think?
Good. No more speeches, please, after this one. Questions, brief. David Kirk.
Absolutely agree with you. Retail banking and investment banking need to be separated. The crisis is not over. The debt has piled up. We have 6 times as much debt now as we had in 2000. The Italian banks are on life support, and they have been for many, many years. There's going to be another financial crisis.
Yes.
And if there is, it's going to be the mother of all crashes. And if we don't do that before the next financial crisis hits, the European directive that says that bank accounts will be forfeit and will have the same status as not deposits as investment, everyone's going to lose their money. So we need to do that, and we need to do it quickly.
Like they stole them in Cyprus. Thank you, David. This question came from somebody else as well, that gentleman's question as well. So, anyone else wants to pick it up? We've got lots of questions, though. Lots.
Very quick. The biggest disaster the Americans ever did was removing the Glass-Steagall Act.
Yes.
And it's the same here. I watched this with horror when they removed the difference between merchant banking, which was all right for risk. People wanted to take a punt, but was no good for ordinary high street banking. And that's what worries me. Your money, my money, everybody else's money is in the bank. If they go, we all go. So it cannot be that way. It has to be changed. There must be an absolute big wall between the investment banks and the high street banks. Otherwise, it's catastrophe.
Thank you, David. Now, if no one else wants to pick up that, that's fine. Anne-Marie, you're trailing. Next question is, what is the stupidest thing you've ever done as an adult? What is the biggest change you have made in your thinking since then? Pick that up if you want to. This question comes from Harrow. It's fine if no one wants to. No one's made any mistakes.
Everything
David.
I've ever done and everything I've ever said.
Aiden.
Someone say I was one year a member of the Labour.
Anne-Marie, would you like?
Yeah, I was a member of the Labour Party as well, but I don't. I've changed a lot since then. As one grows, one changes. But I don't think we should be necessarily saying that being a member of the Labour Party is the biggest mistake you ever made in your life. If you're going to appeal it, you're trying to appeal to the Labour Party voters and win them over. Same position. Don't insult people if you want them to vote for you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Right. Here's one from very close to heart. I helped persuade Diane James to put her name in because I didn't think we should put all our eggs in one basket. What makes you think you're tough enough? Don't raise evidence.
Oh, okay, all right.
I thought you were
okay. Oh, well, no. I was just interested in your question, Freddie.
Right.
But no, no. Look, frankly, if you really love your country, if your affairs are in order, and you have this idea that your life exists to serve something, then frankly, there's nothing that can hold a person back. If there is a vision that inspires them, they have people around them who are supportive of what they're doing, and that frankly describes my situation.
So you're tough enough. Right. Yeah. Somebody else, Bill Etheridge.
20 years in the steel trade, pretty tough. Fighting an election campaign in 2014 that we won and got into the European Parliament, fighting a referendum campaign that we won, fighting in the European Parliament against the most obnoxious, evil, horrible people from our country, and being under attack constantly by every newspaper, and don't we all love the Daily Mail, and still standing, still going, and frankly, throw what they like. If you believe in something, if you're passionate, you don't give a damn. All I care about is our country and its people, and I'll keep them.
Am I tough enough? My God, I've spent the last 10 years getting punched from every which angle imaginable, and I've kept on going, and I'm still going on now with very little money, with nothing but a belief and a passion driving me. I've dealt with a hostile media for 10 years and gotten to the point where they're now apologising to me for smearing and slurring me, and above all, I'm now standing here with the entire establishment of my own party actively speaking out against me, and I'll take those punches, and I'll still keep taking them, and I'll still be standing here. That's tough.
Right, because the thing to avoid here is the Ed Miliband answer. So, it's one of the things that makes this kind of thing easier to do, because you do come into a lot of criticism, you have to expect people to criticise, is to be comfortable in your own belief set. And I'm comfortable with my belief set, what I would like to achieve, and the impact that I would like to make. So, hostility is something which I'm bypassing, because it's about your beliefs, you don't see it about you. A life philosophy, I suppose. Thank you.
Right, so are you tough enough? Was that a yes?
I think.
Yeah, okay, good. That's fine.
Yes.
That's fine. Does anyone else want to take it other than David Coburn, who is already going in advance? Yeah? Go on, if you want to.
Spent many years trading the futures markets here in the city, London, New York, Chicago. If you're not tough, you can't do that. I also happen to do this job that Nigel's doing every single day in Scotland. We've got our own press, we've got Scottish Daily Mail, Scottish Daily Telegraph, Scottish, everything. And we also have all the television stations as well. So I've been doing the job Nigel's been doing in Scotland for the last several years, 4 years or so. So I've already proved I can do it. And you only have to look on Facebook, or you have to look on the internet. You can see everything I've done. So you don't have to guess, you can see it there.
Thank you, David. Right, now we've got lots of questions from the floor. Julian Granger.
Thank you. Every party has people who believe that HQ wins elections. As a local councillor of 17 years, I believe it can take just a few hundred votes to get UKIP members elected and represented. Politicians reach people by addressing their personal and local concerns, and local government is less wasteful than central government. Quangos. So how would your leadership support local government candidates in 2018?
Thank you, Julian. Who wants to take it? Ben Walker.
So the absolute focus for us moving forward is you, it's the grassroots. So we shouldn't be thinking about MEPs downwards, we should be thinking about parish, town, district councillors. Once you've got those and they've got their own little majorities going and their own little support bases, you then build, then you win men PCs. And that's the way that we need to go, from the grassroots up. I fully agree with you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? David Allen.
Whilst if you have a strong local constituency association, that helps a huge amount if you have national support. But the reality is that our position in the country is determined by the national picture. For me, I would dispense with having a manifesto that comes out a few weeks before a general election and have a rolling manifesto which is always there, that is incredibly supportive for local elections, because then the candidates have something to talk to people about. Leaving it to the last minute and trying to get a manifesto off in...
Thank you, David.
And I stop.
Thank you. Right, we've got one from the floor at Lewisham. Right, now this is going to be lightning speed, so please focus. I'm trying to do it lightning speed as well. Do the panel think that the concepts of hate speech and hate crime represent essential safeguards for vulnerable minorities against abuse and intimidation, or are they instead an excuse for a politically motivated debasement of the law that has resulted in prosecutions being based on sectarian preference rather than on impartiality? Bill Etheridge, David Burton, go.
I started out as a spokesman for the campaign against political correctness. Those of you with long memories might remember. Anything that changes the law of this country from being a simple, straightforward law that is equally applied to all is wrong. And if you say something's a hate crime and make it worse for that basis, no. What it's all about is British law, the greatest law in the world. This the example that's been set to the world being properly applied to everyone, no matter who they are, and making sure that's enforced so that the authorities don't fall for this PC claptrap.
I absolutely agree. Hate crime and hate speech is a form you can prosecute it and you can punish it. But we need to change the Equalities Act, which says that you must pay particular regard to people with certain characteristics. And that means that people with certain minority characteristics have special rights, not equal rights. That is wrong.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
is non-negotiable.
Good, that's it. Thank you. Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie.
The whole thing has to go. It's an absolute mess, an absolute disaster. We are all equal citizens. A crime against one is not worse or better than a crime against the other. But let us practice what we preach. If free speech is not debatable, then let's have it that way. And let's let people talk about a religion if they want to as well.
Let's move on to something more divisive. Because we're getting the same answers from candidates. Please, if you're saying you agree, don't agree. Disagree or don't say anything. Right, here's a nasty one. What have your financial contributions been to UKIP so far? Either indirect or not. This comes from outside London. It has, I'm willing to let this go past because we've worked this one before. Why didn't you stand, if you didn't, in the 2015 general election or in the 2017 general election? Paul Nuttall did give us a policy of stand or stand aside. This caused me some problems in London, but we're not here to talk about mine. Every region did, because the instructions changed midstream. Why did you not stand in 2015 and or 2017? Anne-Marie's, I think I can guess what you're going to say.
Well, first of all, I did stand in 2015, and I did very well. Came third in Lewisham, beating the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. I didn't stand in 2017 because I wasn't allowed to, because we didn't practice what we preach about freedom of speech.
Did you want to?
Yes, please. Yes. 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 I stood in 2015 in Cardiff South and Penarth, but I didn't stand in 2017 for two reasons. One was that we had a local candidate who was excellent, but the primary reason was that I wanted to travel throughout the country, helping as many different candidates as I could. I felt I was more used to the party, creating videos for 19 different candidates and getting several 100,000 video views for them. I think we have evidence that that was indeed the case. One reported to me they moved from position 150-something into position 5 after 15,000 video views.
Thank you, John. Right, let's move on. Let's move on to another question. What question do you not want to be asked? No one wants to take this one on. We don't have any leadership battle. Not with me. You want to answer it? Answer it.
My view is...
Answer it.
I have to be able to answer any question. The one that's just on.
You've just answered it. Right. So any questions on? Right. Good. Now, next one. Did you support or oppose the integration agenda? Bill Etheridge.
I vehemently opposed the integration agenda. I think it was absolutely appalling, and what's more, the timing of the launch of it didn't matter what else we said during our election campaign, because all anyone thought about was the fact that we wanted the state to forcibly look up at little girls' skirts, and it was a disgraceful thing. And when we raised objections to it, and I can assure you, objections were raised not about the bulk of it, but about certain aspects, we were laughed at, shouted down, and a small minority of people dominated the policy of the party. It was a disgrace.
Thank you. John Rhys-Evans.
No, I also opposed the integration agenda because while it raised many issues that I think we should be looking at very seriously, I feel that if we fed all of those issues through a direct democracy system, they wouldn't have come out like they would. Unnecessarily offensive, unnecessarily marginalising, unnecessarily stigmatising certain groups, and indeed our party. And look, that was the most prominent raft of policies we put out, and look what it did to us at the general election. Decimated down to 1.8%.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? David Coburn.
I wasn't consulted as leader of Scotland. We were just handed it. When we protested about it, the person who created it laughed at our faces in the European Parliament, all the MEPs. I think it was an absolute shame, and I don't see why people who have been involved in that should even be thinking of running as leader of the party.
Now, we've had three who said almost the same thing. Anyone willing to take the other side? Anne-Marie Waters.
The policies are exactly what were needed. This is, again, this insane denial that anybody cares about these things. These policies were right. The problem was nobody had the guts or frankly the knowledge to actually sell these policies and their importance to the electorate. The problem wasn't the policies, the problem was there was no courage, or actually they didn't have a clue how to sell it to the public. That was the problem, and they blew it. And it has nothing to do with they blew it. It wasn't the policies that were the problem, it was the people selling them.
David, no, my voice is loud.
So what she's saying is absolutely...
You've said it already, David. You're way over here. Yeah. Somebody else wants to pick it up. David Curtin, do you want to?
Yeah, there were some good things in it, there were some bad things in it. I was there at the integration launch, I was talking about the parts to do with education. There were some things that were going to be in it that were even more radical that we discussed and that didn't go in it. Yeah, so it's a mix. We need to consult more, and again, with policy, we did this as a party just too quickly. And policy needs to be rolling. We need to have a policy team that operates all round the clock, responds to everything that goes on for 4 years, for 5 years between 2 elections. Not to come to a situation where we have to, where we're just making...
Would you say it wasn't your baby, this one? Yeah. Right. Let's move on to another one, unless somebody else has got... David, go ahead. Something different, please.
There are 2 issues here. I support the concept of integration in that's opposing sectarianism and isolationism. But I think what we're really talking about is how the party approached that at the last general election, which was an absolute disaster. I did a BBC radio interview in Rochester, which where I stood in 2017. Almost the entire interview was about Van der Berg. And it just covered up anything else you wanted to say.
Thank you, David. Now let's move along to something else now. The biggest, right, sorry, let me start again here. Where will our party be in 3 years' time if you're the boss?
I think we'll be in government. That's what we all want to be.
You mean the Parliament Act is going to come in?
I think there will be another election in about 2 or 3 years' time. If we get ready, in the last election, I think half the people in the country voted for someone that they didn't really want to vote for to keep out someone that they really didn't want to be in Parliament. Yeah. So many people of them want UKIP to be good. I will make UKIP good again, great again, and we can be in government. That's where I want us to be. We've got to have that vision to go forward.
Right, thank you. Anyone else? Ben, you're behind David, if you really want to. Let's get...
In 4 years' time, we're going to have an election in Scotland, and it will be proportional representation, and we have the chance to get people in. If we don't have a group in London saying stupid things about Scotland. That's what happened in the last election, the Scottish election, and it was disastrous for our campaign. We worked very hard, and it was disastrous because of that. And one of the reasons I'm standing, I don't want to be standing 4 years hence and have some silly ass saying something stupid. In the manifesto that last produced, we had 2 people, Patrick O'Flynn and Suzanne Evans, saying...
No, we stop there. We stop there. We stop. We are not going to have this. No, we're not. Thank you, David. Right. Now, anyone else wants to touch this? Where do we want to be in 3 years' time? Yeah? No, we've got lots more questions, so please don't feel the need to grab ones you don't really want. Now, let's save this one for a bit later. Succinctly explain the core instincts of a UKIPper that bind us together and will enable us to grow as a party. This comes from the chairman of the Islington and Hackney branch, who can't make it. Core values, core instincts that bind us together, Ben Walker.
That's very simple. If you look at our constitution, we are all supposed to be libertarians, which to me means that we are a low tax, small state kind of party. Right? People are free thinking. They're allowed to sort of speak out. Debate that's not a terrifying word. That's things that we do. That's what we should be. We shouldn't be focusing on targeting certain individuals or targeting certain areas of society. We've got to be free thinking and radical. We're libertarians, and that is why I believe binds us all together.
Thank you, Ben. Excellent. John? David. John?
I believe that all members of UKIP at heart believe in the concepts of genuine democracy, genuine personal liberty, and the uncompromising rule of law for all people within this country. Thank you.
Thank you, John. David Allen.
It's quite clear that the uncompromising and absolutely all is in the United Kingdom as an independent country, and our ability to do well in any external environment, as we have done for the last 400 years.
Thank you, David. And Bill Etheridge.
Patriotism, a love of individual freedom and liberty, and a rejection of big state control and authoritarianism. That's not who we are.
Yes, thank you. We're getting into really, really murky waters here. Would anyone, right, what is your experience of winning elections?
Right, experience of winning elections, a lot of it down to the fantastic efforts of Nigel Farage, who we all sometimes forget, but we worked hard around in 2014, elected to be councillor in Dudley on the same night as being elected to be an MEP for the West Midlands. We worked our socks off, we put all that perspiration in, we made a tiny difference. Nigel and the campaign made a big difference, but we've won that election. I've also run 2 general election campaigns for myself since, and in the previous life I was a campaign executive for the Conservative Party running their elections in the West Midlands. I know a lot about how to run elections.
Thank you, Bill. David Coburn.
I ran several referendums in Scotland, one for Scottish independence from England, and I fought that. I also fought as on the television and on the radio everywhere. I also fought the referendum to keep Scotland out of the European Union, and UKIP in Scotland were the only party who were doing that. Every other party, Labour, Conservative, Scottish Nationalists, the whole lot, they were for remaining in the EU. And it was just our people, 20 odd people, maybe 30 odd people, going about changing our clothes. We were the only people who were actually protesting to make sure we got out of the European Union. And I was presenting that on television all the time. And I also raised money for Scotland. And we ran our own...
Thank you, David. Thanks. Right. John Rhys-Evans.
Yeah, so during the run-up to the referendum, we were very worried that we might lose in Wales, because if we lost in Wales, we'd lose overall nationally by a ratio of 3-1. So I concentrated all of my efforts into doing what we could to win in Wales. So I recruited and trained and supervised 39 people to deliver 572,000 leaflets in South Wales, and at the same time made many videos that got about 1 million views on social media. And by the grace of God, we won by just over 1% in Wales and got 2-2 rather than 3-1.
Thank you so much, John. Now, David, yes, something different.
Something different. Yeah, the referendum was open. We did something different there. I wrote virtually most of an 8-page tabloid newspaper which was called The Informed Choice. I had a view that if you presented arguments in a rational way, then people would read it and people will come over to your view. I also did that in the Rochester as True general election, something nobody else has ever done in any election, and that is to put out an 8,000-word, 8-page tabloid newspaper as an electoral mailing. Now, there is a way to do that and get it all posted for free. And I think that simply because I saved my deposit.
Thank you, David. Well done in saving your deposit. Now, let's have a question from the floor from Andrew Price, who's been...
Well, you've got the quote.
I have the quote here now. I don't know how loaded this is.
I prefer to ask my own question, so...
Ask your own question, then.
You could do a better job than me, Freddie. You go ahead.
Oh, animals.
Competition.
This is your question, yes? Indeed. Farage is clueless and cowardly, and this is precisely why I've always disliked him and his cronies. I have no idea who said this, by the way.
Jack Buckley, Anne-Marie's...
Yes.
Is this a fair, my question is
Is this the right estimation of Nigel Farage? I think we all say no.
What do they say?
Well, I mean, surely, I mean, obviously the implication is to blame that on me as well. I don't, that bookie is free to tweet whatever he wants. I don't agree with that.
You sack him.
Just work for me. I have a team of people who help me. He's one of them. He's a free person. He's free to offer an opinion on Nigel Farage if he wants to. I don't agree with it. I think he did that after the Sunday Politics, which I made my own comments, where I said I admire him greatly, and I do, but I think on this issue he's wrong. I'm not responsible for what Jack Buckley puts on Twitter, and it's a little bit ridiculous, really, to try and blame him.
Right. Say the rest of the panel, you probably don't think Nigel is any of those things. David, you're completely on borrowed times, mate. You spent all your coppers have been spent right now until we get a refresh. You're on 7 already. Now, next question. How would the new leader set about building bridges with the Muslim community and others, Chinese, Indians, etc.? The use of this word Asians is ridiculous since half the planet's Asian. So, anyone wants to take that one up? That comes from somebody who wants to be named. Sue Benjamin's in the Barking and Dagenham branch.
I'm already standing up. There you go.
Absolutely, you're already standing up.
Thank you, that's not how we're going to do. I think that Hindus and Sikhs and fantastic people, they would naturally come to UKIP because they're proud patriots, British Hindus and British Sikhs. With Muslims, we have to make a distinction between those who are radical Muslims like Wahhabis and Salafists, and those who don't like this country, who hate this country and want to radicalise people to destroy and kill. And those good, lovely Muslims like the Ahmadiyya Muslims, the Ismailis and the Sufis, who are proud British citizens as well, who naturally are socially conservative, like I would take the party in the direction of, and I think they will come to UKIP as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Dave.
The way we reach out to every sector of the community and every British citizen is to treat them on their merits and not to be prejudiced against them because of their religion, their skin colour or anything else. And quite frankly, in the West Midlands, I've got a little story to tell you. We won the referendum by a record amount, more than anyone else in the West Midlands. And I was talking to a Muslim businessman on the night when the scores were coming through. I was concerned. And he said, don't worry. And he showed me his phone. And he showed me a trail of emails and texts all across the West Midlands from different mosques, different community centres and different businessmen, all of them voting for Brexit, all of them patriotic and all of them wishing the best for our country. They just want to get on with their lives, run a business and be good citizens. If they don't want to be, they get the same penalty as everyone else.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. Right. This is a difficult one. The Evening Standard today reported that Gove and Boris are trying to crash EU negotiations so that we have a hard Brexit by walking away and reverting to WTO rules. I'll repeat that again. Walk away. Can those candidates who approve raise their hands? You're all candidates for vote. Excellent. Can we have £5.5 grand? Courage, please collect £5.5 grand from all these people who raised their hands. Good. I rather thought this was a rabble rouser. Now I'm getting text saying we should wrap it up. How about another 20 minutes and then we wrap it up?
No, 10 minutes.
10. Okay, 10. Right. 10 then. What? Now we've already done hanging, so we talk about guillotining now. Because what do you want done with the NEC and its subcommittees? This question comes from an ex-NEC member in Switzerland and UKIP daily commentator. What do you want done with the NEC, if anything? Anyone wants to take that up?
Yes. Okay. My view is that the NEC is an approximation of democracy in much the same way that modern representative democracy is an approximation of democracy. There's no need for it. We have a means of expressing what is our will, so we don't need them to tell us what we think on our behalf. What I want to see is an an NEC that is composed of various different disciplines, and when people apply to be elected to the NEC, they essentially apply for a particular job, and we elect them on the basis of their ability to fulfill that role, and that role should be with respect to campaigning capability at national level and the ability to liaise down the chain of command to local level to ensure that all skills that we need to win elections are present.
Thank you, John. Anyone else wants to touch that? Ben Walker.
Same again, I don't see much place for the NEC as it is now, so I would like to see something like regional or county chairs who are elected by branches take up a seat on the NEC. So they, you've got that local representation from right around the UK. So the NEC is understanding the voice of you guys on the ground.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Anyone else? Next question. David Coleman. That is going to be your last question then, though.
Oh dear. Well, the trouble with the NEC is it's just selected by 120 words or whatever it is, and a photograph of yourself when you were demobbed from the Navy in 1945. It is ludicrous. What we need to do is have an NEC made up of people who work for the party, i.e. people who have been chairs of branches, people who have been regional chairs. You must have been seen to do something first before you just get on there because you've got a pretty picture and you look nice. It just can't be that way. And there's no way of checking whether anything they say is true. And they should be vetted in the same way that you vet candidates. Otherwise, it's ludicrous.
Thank you, David. Now we have one, that's the last one then. Now we've got one from our very, very competent videographer, Chris Mendes, and it is 3 years we've talked about. What's your 20-year view? Where's the country be? Where will UKIP be? If anywhere. Now I just want one or two of you to do it because we're running out of time. So anyone wants to take this? Difficult question.
20 years.
I've done it. 20-year view. Bill Etheridge.
In 20 years' time, this country will be the envy of the world. We will have an economy that's more dynamic than the whole of the rest of the Western world. We'll be competing on the international stage unfettered by being chained to the corpse of the EU. We will be able to have our own rules and regulations. We'll have a great justice system that we're designed that isn't beholden on judges in Europe. We can do our own thing. We can be the greatest nation this world has ever seen again. We can do it. We just need to believe in ourselves.
Thank you, Bill. These are the two very long questions. David Coben's out. Aidan, you've been very silent. Commendations. Anyone else want? David?
Yeah, I've got something to say this. In 20 years' time, I think we'll be in a country, and I think we're going to achieve this, where we have a truly representative democracy with elements of direct democracy within that. As a result of that, the polarisation of politics and the toing and froing of ideology will have ended, because we will have had coalition government that have been working and moving the country forward for several years instead of opposing each other for the sake of it. I think we have rebalanced the role, even of the financial sector in the City of London, with a return to industrialisation. We will have encouraged innovation, inventiveness. You do well by making stuff that people want, making new stuff that people want, and selling it around the world. And I think that was
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Now, this is a yes/no from each candidate, please. A yes/no very quickly. Just a yes or no. Were the NEC to ban one of the candidates on grounds of claimed Islamophobia, would you support that candidate not being banned? I.e., would you oppose the ban?
Yes,
I would.
Any candidate being banned on the grounds of Islamophobia, one of you lot. Anyone, would you support the ban?
I would oppose the ban.
You would oppose the ban. Anyone else would oppose the ban? Then say yes, you want to oppose the ban.
I would oppose the ban.
I would oppose the ban, but I don't have a vote. So, right, David, would you oppose the ban?
I would oppose the ban, but it depends what else they've been doing.
No, just Islamophobia. We ain't going to do anything else.
Well, Islamophobia,
Alleged.
yes, but other grounds perhaps.
Fine.
I would oppose it. Islamophobia is a made-up word.
It's not me versus the audience or against the panel, but Islamophobia is a real word in the dictionary, and it says an irrational dislike or fear of Muslims is not the definition. It's a hatred and dislike of Muslims. So on that grounds, I'm sure none of us on this panel or in this room is Islamophobic, full stop. but it has been hijacked to mean other things. This word. So, let's go on to a difficult question now. Should politicians be held to pre-election pledges after they're elected? This comes from the City and Westminster branch. Should politicians be held to their pre-election pledges after they are elected? Politicians, presumably, Parliament, here, MEPs, anyone. Anyone wants that? Pick up that.
Yeah.
David?
I absolutely think so. And something that disappeared in the 2017 manifesto was the right of recall. That people should have the right, with enough proportion of the electorate, to sack their MP and to sack their representatives. That would make democracy more representative if they went against their pledges and the people could say, well, you've done that, you're out.
Thank you. Aidan.
I disagree. I think carrying on ahead over the cliff when the circumstances completely change is not the right way to go. And in any case, if circumstances do change and your way of changing with them is a betrayal of what you had promised, there is nothing to stop you being beaten in a subsequent election for that betrayal of what you originally promised. I think a slavish adherence to manifestos is just stubborn.
Thank you. Anne-Marie.
I think you. It's very easy to say yes and very popular to say yes, but you have to be realistic about it and understand that the politicians often aspire to do things and really believe in things, but find themselves unable to do it when they get into the position. For example, Trump and his immigration policies, he wasn't able to do them. What I do want to see from politicians, though, is to answer for why they can't do it. It's not that they can't do it, it's how they deal with the facts. So if they lie and they treat the electorate like fools, that's when I want to see them be punished for it. But when you're not able to do something, as long as you explain to the electorate with a bit of honesty, you build their trust and you deserve to stay in your job.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Ben, you want to you want to answer this one?
Yeah, can do.
Absolutely, you're behind me.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think they should be. And, you know, you could argue that the current system doesn't really allow that. The right to recall thing is very difficult to implement. But actually, if we changed our voting system and it was more representative of the communities than it actually, you know, that the people there being elected and they represent, that would be better. So you can actually kick them out. You have more chance of kicking them out at the next election if they didn't do what they promised to you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Excellent. Another one. UKIP won a historic victory 23rd June, but the battle of Brexit has not been won. That's obvious. In fact, we are probably losing it. What must UKIP do about it right now? If you became leader today, what would you do about it? Bill.
Brexit's being taken away from us. It's happening right now as we speak. It's happening by the big, powerful states across the EU and here. What we must do is how we got it in the first place. Pull our socks up, get ourselves organised again, become a potent force on the political scene. We only got that referendum because Cameron was absolutely terrifying that we were going to take seats. We've got to make UKIP a force once again. That means a serious, professional electoral machine that can actually challenge and win seats. We do that, we'll get Brexit. If we don't,
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Give it up.
I mean, whilst I agree with what Sil says, I mean, what we're waiting to hear is house. Yes, we want to become a political force, but we are not at the moment. The only way I think that we can do that is by pursuing policies with an intellectual clarity. Voting reform is one of them that has significant support in the country. And we need to cooperate with other parties that want the same thing. Develop a scenario where we can choose, the system to go with.
Which parties?
Liberal Democrats, SDP, Plaid Green, section of the Labour Party. Now, if you don't cooperate with people, this will never happen.
They're totally against it.
There is a section within the Labour Party that is supportive of
That's it. That's it, David. Thank you. John.
Okay. Now, the big problem with our current form of representative democracy is that the government interprets our will as a suggestion. The only way we're ever going to get what we want, whether it be Brexit or anything else that people care about, is by pushing for a form of direct democracy whereby if enough of the population vote for something, it has to become the law.
Thank you, John. Move on to a very quick question answer one. Yes or no, coming from an influential London person. Not me, I'm not influential. But how many of you have read the Quran? Substantially. Right, just Have you read the Quran? 1, 2, 3.
Some of it.
Some of it.
Little bits.
Right, okay, that's just for the benefit of the audience. I'm asking the question. Now, government figures show that £29 billion are overdue. 29 billion are overdue. I ran a small to medium-sized enterprise, and I was forever fighting big companies simply because they thought they'd screw me by not paying, and I'd eventually go bust or something, and then they wouldn't have to pay me. How would you support the 30-day period for payment, and beyond that, actually the state stepping in before you nod so quickly, Mr. Coburn, the state stepping in into the private sector and interfering and enforcing? Yeah, you've had your chance, mate, not you. You can nod. David Allen.
Yes, absolutely.
You want the state to step in?
It is.
Right?
No, not the state. I support not only 30-day payment. I don't see why it should be 30 days. Particularly if many companies won't pay for 60 days and even more. It's absolutely ludicrous that large companies can put this pressure on small companies. So yes, I think there is a role here to make sure that large companies pay their small suppliers. It is a disgrace.
Right. Middlesbrough and South Cleveland branch. Article 2.5 of our Constitution says UKIP will put forward policies to diminish the role of the state, lower the tax burden, and reduce state interference. In power, what is the one thing that you would do, not waffle, to actually produce this? Article 2.5, reduce the power of the state. What would you do if you were in charge of UKIP? What would you do to pressurize the government or to put yourself in government to do this? Difficult question. Who wants to take this one? People who are old, definitely Ben. Definitely Aidan. You're behind. Do you want to answer it? Yeah, go on.
Okay. So basically, I do believe, like, instead of cutting the life out of all the, the people that depend on the state and all that sort of stuff, we need to look at the state itself. Because no matter what they say to you, and they've cut this, they've cut that, it's just lies. The fact is, our government can be so much smaller, and there are efficiencies to be made within the government. So day one, if I was having a new government in that way, we'd have to look at that. We would have to look at each department and getting rid of people. Working for the government is just a non-productive job, okay? It can be much smaller, and we can save a huge amount of money.
Thank you, Ben. That's perfect.
Hello. Yes, I've already said I would take 100 billion out of the welfare budget. I would also take 30 billion out by abolishing departments, including the very obvious one of foreign aid, entirely.
Thank you. Bill Etheridge.
Abolish VAT, abolish inheritance tax, abolish foreign aid, take away all those departments, replace all of it with a simpler system, roll national insurance into income tax, make everything a lot simpler, flatter taxes, fairer, simpler systems. You take away the power of the state when you make things less complex. That's the way to do it. And that also gives a smaller person a chance. Because right now, we've got people working for minimum wage, cleaners, etc., who are paying as much tax as a millionaire. Why? Because they can't afford a good accountant.
Thank you, Bill. Another hard one, and this is going to be the last or the second last question. If you felt that there was, and you had conclusive proof that there was going to be Labour in power in an election that had been announced, unless UKIP did something, would you merge or do a deal with the Conservatives or have a policy behind closed doors or not with the Conservative Party to shut out Corbynite Labour? Aidan.
UKIP should never merge with any other party.
Again, you have to deal with the circumstances you have in front of them. A sweeping statement of merge with, no. But if you are looking at a Corbyn government, some of the things he will do will be irreversible. And if you can't fight him on that, you have to worry about the longer term. You have to find a way to keep him out now and then get back to basics afterwards. Sometimes you have to do what needs to be done to protect the longer term, and sometimes that means certainly means keeping Corbyn out of power.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Right. Last one then. Is the minimum wage correct where it is? Should be higher, lower, should be abolished? Minimum wage. Anyone? Aidan.
UKIP rejected a proposal to come out in favour of minimum wage at party conference 2 or 3 years ago, and as a party we are not in favour of having a minimum wage at all, and neither am I.
Excellent. Bill.
The minimum wage merely helps and promotes companies to screw the workforce over. Frankly, you take all taxation out of those lower wages and stop the state saying what you can and can't have, but raise the allowance so that people on lower wages get to keep more of their money. That's the way. Remove the state. It's always the answer.
Thank you, Bill. I like that last bit, otherwise you were sounding like a Lib Dem for a few seconds.
What?
Can't have that. No, Ben, you're behind.
Minimum wage?
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage. So, no, I don't believe in the minimum wage. The trouble with that is that you're enforcing employers to pay a certain amount of money, and generally all that employers then do is they'll cut the hours that they use people. So you've got to be sensible about that. You know, yeah, people need their standards and need to be looked after, things like that. But the fact is, if we set targets for wages, we're cutting our nose off to spite our face and doing people out of money.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got one question which has come from the floor, which is great. It's absolutely perfect. It says we must wrap up now. So, thank you, candidates. John.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.